Welcome everybody back to the Nuggets of Gold podcast and YouTube channel. So for today's video, I'm going to be discussing the Charles Omenihu trade. He was just traded to the 49ers for a 6th-round pick. Initially, he was drafted by the Texans in 2019 out of the 5th round from Texas. Wore number 90 at Texas, wore number 94 on the Texans. And he's a guy that I am expecting him to play more inside than outside for the 49ers. You just saw Javon Kinlaw go down. The Niners weren't really expecting to make a trade, and they decided to make this move. As we've seen in past seasons, Chris Kocurek, the 49ers defensive line coach, has got a lot out of some of these players who aren't really known before. And I think potentially Omenihu is a guy like that. So I was looking into a little bit. Wasn't super familiar with him before the trade, but watched a couple of videos on him, read up on some of his draft profiles and whatnot. And he's 6'5", 6'6", has played between 250 to 275, I believe, in his career. I think right now he's more in like 260 to 270 range. But I do expect him to play inside more for the 49ers. When we talk about like guys that have that versatility, I think for the Niners, the first guy that comes out is Eric Armstead. But I think Charles is a little bit different of a player. Now, when I'm watching him, he's very violent at the point of attack, has a pretty good jump most of the time, but he's not super bendy off the edge. He doesn't display any crazy pass rushing moves, plays with a high motor, but pretty much the times when he wins is when he wins initially. At least that's how I felt when I was watching him. So not a guy that's going to have great counter moves or anything like that. Doesn't feel like he's developed that part of his game yet. Keep in mind, he was only drafted in 2019. And he's racked up a pretty good amount of pressures through, I think it's 35 or 36 games in the NFL. But this is a guy I think, I don't know, I like him. I'm intrigued. I think for the 49ers, Chris Kocurek, he's been one of their best positional coaches just because we've seen how last year Kerry Hyder absolutely emerged. But if this is a guy that they felt, hey, we really like the athletic profile of him, he's a very violent player. A lot of times you'll see him absolutely destroy guards, especially in college too, but we've seen him do it a few times in the NFL, has got quite a few strip sacks because he gets the quarterback so quick and just is very violent with his hands. Like I said, doesn't have those crazy pass rush moves, doesn't have that bend. So that's why I think it's a little bit more likely that he is kicked inside. But he could potentially be a guy that fits into the rotation. I don't think he would be starting this year. I think he's more of a project player for the 49ers, but giving up a 6th-round pick for a guy that you like and you think has a great athletic profile, very, very smart in my opinion. And I know they didn't go ahead and trade for corner. Didn't seem like the corner market was great. Now, earlier, the corner market was a lot better when guys like Stephon Gilmore were there. So I think you can critique them for not going and getting a corner early in the year. Also, Richard Sherman was a free agent, stuff like that. But for the trade deadline, I thought the only other guy I really wanted them to potentially go after would have been Marcus May of the New York Jets, just because it doesn't seem like he's going to be resigning, and now Jimmy Ward is out. But they don't go that route. They go and they get a guy that not many people know about, including myself. Didn't really know much about him, but I am very intrigued and excited to see what Chris Kocurek does with him if he's able to develop him, because they have a couple years, the rest of this season, the next season under contract, and then he's a free agent after that. So, if you can get some flashes out of him, if he can be a solid rotational piece on that defensive line, like I said, mostly inside, maybe playing a little bit of that 3-tech and some pass rushing downs. But I don't know. I don't think it's going to be some super pivotal move, but I think we're going to hear his name called a few times this season, and hopefully they continue to develop him. And I think when we'll really find out about the pick will be next offseason to see, okay, what are the jumps and the strides that he takes with Chris Kocurek in training camp throughout the offseason, and then what does he look like early next year? Is he a guy that's emerging as like, hey, he might not be starting on this defensive line, but he's a starter level player? And if they can do that, massive win. But we'll see how it plays out. That's all I got on right now. Excited to see him later this season, kind of see the player he is, because didn't really know much about him coming out. But that's going to do it for today's video. So thank you all for listening, and I'll be back tomorrow with more 49ers content.